Autoweb. Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Autoweb. In the L.A. Dubs in the building. What's going on, y'all? L.A. Williams, the blind phone master, and I'm in the place to be. Sean Bradley's on vacation right now, but I do have a gentleman who is equally worthy. I'm telling you, this gentleman, he runs his own podcast. It is the mostly automotive, mostly marketing. Matt, let him know. This is Matt Wilson. Tell him the name of your podcast, Matt.
You had it pretty close. It's mostly automotive marketing.
Mostly automotive marketing. Okay, cool. And you're based out of the capital of the world, right?
I'm in the media capital of the world, man. New Milford, Connecticut, which is a place nobody's heard of, right?
Awesome, man. Well, listen, first of all, thank you for hopping on the show. This is some good stuff. Yo, it was so crazy when I came across your podcast. I don't know if I found you initially on Clubhouse or where we were, but, I heard it and I'm like, he got like a list of 35 different automotive podcasts. And when we started, I couldn't find anything, right? So thanks so much for having your podcast, #1. When did you get started, and tell everybody how you found all those different podcasts? You're like a super duper resource for the automotive industry. We appreciate you.
Not really. It makes it sound like it, but I found a list. I found somebody else who did all the work.
Okay.
And made a list. DealerLifeToday.com.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Little is his name. He compiled a list of podcasts in the automotive industry. And the way I found out about it was somebody said to me that they saw my podcast on the list, and yours is on the list too. I just noticed.
Oh, cool.
So he sent me that list, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of podcasts in our industry. Right. And, I have not had a chance to listen to a lot of them because I didn't realize that there were so many.
Exactly.
But I've listened to a few. Right. And there's a lot of guys doing a couple of cool things out there. And it's like, I find that all of them have their little niche, like a lot of them are like the Dealer News Today, guy. He is like news, like here's what's going on. Let's talk about breaking news. Let's talk about what's happening in automotive. And then you got Jason Harris out there, Canadian orange tie guy, strategies with Jason. He's, out at lunch, drinking a whiskey, having a discussion with a dealer about a cool topic. So he's he's putting out content consistently, and he's all over the place. He's got some marketing, some operational, some sales, some training. And then you get the Car Guys Coffee podcast. Those guys are awesome, right? They got they're like you. They got great energy. They're dancing around. They're feeling the vibe. And they deal a lot with sales and motivation and get yourself motivated and be positive. And then they do a lot of subprime credit type stuff. And so everyone's got their little niche. And I wanted mine to be marketing. I'm like, let me just talk about marketing in automotive. I'm a marketing guy. I used to be the marketing director at a group of stores. And I used to be a radio guy. So let me just do a radio show basically about automotive marketing.
Absolutely.
That's why I had to go out and get this fancy microphone.
Very cool. What kind of mic you got? Tell everybody.
I got an Audio Technica here I bought as a package with my Rodecaster Pro that I bought. It came with this boom arm. And then, of course, I had to stick with, I broke that. My old, my old school MDR 7506 radio station headphones from back in the day. These things, you can run them over with a stool and they don't break. So.
Exactly. And the reason why I'm sharing that stuff with the audience is because everybody's doing something virtual now. And so I think it's important, even in the automotive industry, right? T Got Your Keys, Tiana from T Got Your Keys, she was asking me about microphones, when she's shooting videos for car sales, right? For customers and things like that. I'm like, yeah, you should. You could have a good microphone, something that you can have attached to you. That way, when you're showing the car, it's not like you're not losing quality in audio, right? You got the wind and everything blowing and all that whole crazy stuff. So you definitely want to have some high quality microphones. And there's plenty of places where you can get some cool stuff.
I mean, the problem with that is for dealers is that all car dealerships are located on busy roads. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you have a good store, you're located on a busy road.
Right.
So what do you hear in every walk around video? Traffic going by.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I can't hear you. You're 5 feet away from the camera on a main road. Like, get a mic.
Exactly, 100%. So tell us. So you said you started off. You were marketing director for some stores. Did you ever sell cars like as a salesperson or no?
I did not. I've
Okay.
always been on the marketing side.
Nice.
I left. I was in radio for 15 years, and then I left to go to automotive marketing on the tier
And what
3
made you
dealer
make that jump?
level.
That was weird. Like that was.
It was weird.
Tell us about that.
Well, when you work in radio, you work with business owners all over the market that you're in. And so I worked at a rock station, and we were involved with a lot of the car dealerships.
Okay.
So there was a guy up the road from us who had a Chevy store, and we would always team up with him and give away like a Chevy truck, like when the Chevy Avalanche came out, it was a big like, hey, we're a classic rock station. Let's give away a Chevy Avalanche.
Cool.
And I got to know the area dealers over time. And one of the local guys near me, his name is Bruce Bennett, was a great dealer and good family, and just knew him over the years. And eventually, when I was ready to get out of radio, I heard somebody telling a story once at the radio station about how they didn't like his agency. They thought his agency was being, rude to the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an idea. I was like, why does this guy need an agency? He's like, this guy's a nice guy. Everyone likes him. He's got a good reputation. Like, and this agency is out there making him look bad by pressuring all the media outlets and just being mean to them all. And so I just kind of had the idea, like, this guy should hire an in-house guy. It started there, and, it didn't work out right away, but, a couple years later, I ended up going to work for him. And then that store became part of a big group, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So
Nice.
The short answer is relationships. It's all about relationships, right?
That's everything, man. Like that's one of the things that Ali Rita talks about all the time. It's like, how come he sells 100, 150 cars a month? Is because he's built relationships in the community.
Yeah.
And people want that type of stuff to happen, overnight, and it's not going to happen. It takes a long time to become an overnight success, right?
Yeah.
So,
you ever talk to a salesperson like from a dealership level who will say, oh, I really want to get involved in, social media. Like I want to do Instagram and Facebook. And so they start, and they're all gung ho, and they post delivery pictures, and they create, Tim sells cars for you, profiles all over the internet. And they do a really good job for like a month of delivery pictures and videos. They're at the store in the morning, and the parking lot looks great, and they're doing walkarounds, and they're all gung ho. And then after a month, they don't see any return on it because it takes time, and then they just give up.
Right.
That happens all the time. But if you stick with it and you put the time in, the long-term potential for growth is astronomical.
Right. All right. So being the marketing guy, first of all, there's two questions, because I know one reason why they don't stick to it is because, it takes some time, right?
Yeah.
The secondary reason is because you have people who are in your ear saying, you doing all that? How many cars you sell? You doing all that? How many cars you sell? Right.
Yeah.
And so like, talk a little bit about how long it should take. Maybe you can talk directly to that person, or even, to those haters or those annoying little pricks that's always saying that kind of stuff when they obviously don't know anything.
Yeah, it takes time. I think, like you said, and that's the problem. I think I've talked about this before on my podcast. If a salesperson or a marketing person doesn't have buy-in on what they're doing on social media from their manager, it's very, very difficult, because you'll have your manager being like, oh, well, exactly. You wasted a bunch of time on Instagram last month, but you only sold 15 cars and you're supposed to sell 22 cars. And so you wasted your time. But if that person, their supervisor, doesn't buy in to how it can help them long-term, then it's very, very difficult.
Right.
But there's a guy in the market that I live in, and his name, I'll use his name. It's Adam Dean, and he's branded himself as Adam Dean, Mr. Mazda, or Mr. Mazda, Adam Dean.
Mr. Mazda.
And I'd never heard of him before, right? And I was at this hockey game, a minor league hockey game once, and he had like bought a sponsorship of the hockey team. So it'd be like, oh, that goal was brought to you by Mr. Mazda, Adam Dean. So I ended up meeting this guy, and I think I had him on the podcast a couple of years ago. And he just did a great job and stuck with it. And he's been doing it for, I think, 2 or 3 years now. And you know how many like new ups he takes on a Saturday? Not that many.
Yeah.
Because he's got this like name recognition and these people that come back to him, and his referrals are so high.
Right.
But it takes time. And unfortunately, I think if you don't have a supervisor or a manager who has buy-in, it can be very difficult for you as a salesperson to accomplish it, because it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You're looking for next month and the month after and a year down the road. It might not help you sell cars this coming Saturday.
Got you. All right. Yeah. So that's the conversation you got to have with your manager. You got to say, listen, Boss, this takes time, right? Trust and believe it pays off. And you can, point at different examples. You let them listen to the podcast. You know what I'm saying? We'll tell them for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop being a prick, man. Let the guy do what he got to do, right? As long as he's, he still should be selling cars. We're not saying turn over all of your time. Is there a certain ratio that you would give? I mean, how should a person, go about that when it comes to, okay, you got to sell cars, you got to do this, you got to do that. But then, and here's the other thing that I was just saying, I want you to come in and chime in. Here's the thing. If you can't do it while you're quote unquote on the clock, right? Then just do it when you're not on the clock, right? Go in your days off and do some daggone marketing, right? Do some pictures. You got to put the time in initially in order to get something going. I train with, BDC reps and things like that all the time. And they're like, oh, well, LA, you want me to practice at home? Abso-daggum-lutely. That's what the greatest basketball players do. You think they just, hop on the court and just start playing? No, they practice they in the gym constantly throughout the summer. The off season is where champions are made. That's what I got to say.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Attention auto dealers. You need an opportunity to do business. AutoWeb is one of the largest suppliers of high quality leads. I mean, high quality buyers. At a 10% closing ratio, you will be at less than $190 per car sold. Don't just settle for what you get. AutoWeb can fully customize your results through targeted markets or zip codes, and as a partner, you will get premium placement within search results. Who better to do that than literally the people that invented automotive internet sales? If you want to sell more cars more often and more profitably, then you need AutoWeb.
Yep. Nope. I agree. Hey, listen, Tom Brady, man, he's working out all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Emmett Smith, right? They got this video of him where he's like, I just won a Super Bowl. I think I'll take a rest now. He rests for 1 second and then he boom, back to he's just preparing, right? Champions are in the preseason. So that's awesome stuff. All right. So tell us this. Look, we just talked about how it takes time, but as a marketer, right? What are some of the fastest ways that I could, prove to my manager, prove to myself, prove to my family that, hey, if I, invest in this, that, and the third, that you found in 2021 that really are getting results pretty darn quickly? I know I have one, but let me get your feedback.
Yeah, I think you have to. I agree with you what you said before about showing them examples. Like, listen, this has worked for people. Like, here's GM Jeff. Was it Jeff? GM Jeff? The GM guy.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard. A lot of people have heard of him in our industry. He does a great job. He's posts content all the time. He's like Mr. General Motors. Yep. I've been trying to get him on the podcast. He's a super busy guy. But show him examples. Here's guys that it's worked for. If there's somebody else in the store you're going to work for, or you're working somebody else in your store has had success with that, then you can use that as an example. But you mentioned time. Like, you got to figure out. Like, you got to get buttoned up on organization, right? You got to make sure that you're dealing with your follow-up and your CRM. You're not letting things fall through the cracks. Right. You're doing all the things your managers want you to do, but make sure you carve out time for yourself and for the future. And you know what? If that involves, off-hour stuff, like sometimes there's certain weeks of the month where I'm crazy busy. I'll get up and because I'm a morning guy. So but I have kids, right? So it's hard to be productive in the morning. Right. I'll get up at 6 a.m. before anybody else is up. I'll make a cup of coffee in my kitchen. I'll grab my laptop and I'll do a bunch of social media, podcast related stuff in the morning before the day gets started. Because once my day gets going, I know I might not have time to do it. I got stuff for my agency I work for, and I got stuff going on around the house, and it gets busy. But if it's important to you, then you got to make time to do it. And as you start doing it, I think you start finding out kind of like how it fits into your life, into your organization, into your schedule, right?
Exactly. 100%. Because do you use stuff like Hootsuite or like those scheduling apps to send out tweets and posts and stuff like that? Or you just kind of put them out? How does that work?
I don't right now. I mean, I've used them in the past, like on the dealer level, we use them, we have multiple stores across multiple platforms, whether you're on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever platforms you can use Hootsuite for. I don't right now. I use a spreadsheet where I have here's my episode title, here's when I put it on Anchor, here's when it's published. And then I have all the LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Like, I have a checklist of all the places I want to put it. Gotcha. Because I like to change the copy based on
current
the
events and
channel.
stuff like that. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. That too, right? Because
Yeah.
everything has got to be different. 100%. I get it. So that's cool. So again, just as a salesperson, man, if you want to be successful, I just think it's definitely important to, carve out time. And I think it's a success principle, period, right? You have to set aside time to do. Look, they say, what does Sean always say? He's like, you can tell what's important to people by where they spend their time and where they spend their money. Right. That's just one of the major things. Right. All right, cool.
Yep. Exactly.
So as a marketer, so what was your, like, when you were, in the dealership and things like that, what did you do? Was it for the dealer? Did you have specific stuff for your salespeople, or it was like, hey, they got to do what they got to do. This is all for the dealership. How does that work?
Previously, when I was at the group, because part of marketing comes down to the process on the showroom floor as well. So I think that any marketer, like an in-house marketing director, has to be involved at least a little bit in the sales process, because you could spend all the money in the world and do all the greatest marketing in the world from a creative standpoint and a media tactic standpoint, but if that doesn't flow down to the showroom floor, you're just wasting your money. The process of what's going to, like, as an example, if you're running some kind of like online event where you're marketing to, people with a certain credit score and a certain vehicle, and that person comes in with that event in their head, hey, I'm here for the Facebook thing.
Right.
I heard a credit approval. The sales guy goes, huh? Well, you just wasted all your money on that event. Like, the guy can't go, huh? So the marketing, there has to be a meeting, a discussion, some kind of dissemination of the information down to the sales level.
Right.
So I would get involved in it all. I would go to every sales meeting, or I'd go to sales meeting once a week and say, hey, here's what we got going on, and kind of roll down what we were doing marketing wise. If there was some kind of, lesson to be learned about, here's how, the customer's going to come in and this is what they saw and this is what they're going to say to you, and here's how we should handle it.
Gotcha.
Or talk to the sales managers about it and let them, talk to their staff about how to handle it. But I think marketing and sales need to go hand in hand. And I was involved in all those departments: fixed ops, variable ops. You got to get involved in all of it. Marketing is all encompassing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually just heard, we were just interviewing Mr. Ford Sakes for our Against All Odds radio show. And he said something to me that was pretty freeing. He was like, you're only going to be good at one, maybe two out of these three things. He said, either you're a great with, sales and marketing, you're great as a manager, right? But you may not be so good at sales and marketing, or you are the magician. You're like that executor. That person is just great at something, right? He's like, but usually you're not going to be good at all three. Sometimes you're good at two. And it was crazy because for me, I struggle because I want to be good at all three. Because my whole thing is I want to be valuable. I'm the blind master, so I'm already feel like I got a leg down in the game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I want to be like, even though I can't see, I can still sell, I can still market, I can still manage, and I can get the job done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. I'm gonna do it all. Right.
But I run into those different type of challenges, man. So anyway, I definitely appreciate that. So all right, I heard you say folks are just disjointed in the dealership, and I think that's the case in pretty much all businesses. My guy Todd Duncan, you may be familiar. He has the book called The $6,000 Egg, and the whole point is that departments don't seem to work together, right? It's like the service department thinking one thing, the sales department, the parts department, the BDC's thinking another thing, right? And so then sometimes it becomes a us against them type of thing, right? So
For sure.
outside of disjointment, what would you say some of the biggest mistakes you see dealers or departments and things like that make so that the audience can avoid it? What would you say?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. I think a mistake could be management. Let's talk about managers, right? Who becomes a manager at a car dealership?
The best salesperson.
The best salesperson.
Right.
Same thing in radio when I worked in radio. Who
Yeah,
becomes
right.
general manager? The sales manager, who was the best salesperson.
Right.
Well, that doesn't give you, those are two different jobs. Like you said, being the best salesperson does not equal leading and motivating a sales staff.
Yeah.
So, and I believe wholeheartedly in promoting from within, but just because a guy's a good sales guy and he can figure out how to run the numbers and he knows how to use the CRM better than the other sales guys and he knows the finance part of it, doesn't mean he should be a sales manager, right? And what happens is you get these people I could think of 10 people in my head right now that I won't out on your podcast who are managers and have no business being managers
Right.
because they have zero people skills or zero management skills. And that's a problem in our industry because how do you make people better? How do you train? How do you motivate your people? How do you be a compassionate leader? How do you help your people, feel positive in a negative environment? If you're working for a manufacturer that is, in the news and tanking, and, if you're not equipped to handle that, then, how can you be a good person to work for? I think it's a huge issue. And I don't know what the solution is for that. I'm just pointing out what I think a huge issue is,
Right.
but, people have to learn leadership because you just get you end up in the job and then it's kind of like figure it out.
Yeah.
And that can have a real negative effect on performance and morale.
Right. And the only time, I see something like that being successful is when you have those kind of people, those figure it out kind of people, because if they are, then they will figure out how to be a great manager. And listen, I know you said you don't know the solution, but you could always reach out to a company called Dealer Synergy, right? They could
Synergy. I hear you there. I got it.
You can reach out to Dealer Synergy and we can coach them. I'm like plugging here shamelessly, right? But in addition to that, I'm really saying to hire your weakness, right?
Yeah.
Hire your weakness. If you're great, if you're like the person that gets it all done, well, then hire somebody who knows how to sell and market what it is that you do. If you have a staff, right, hire somebody who's a great manager, right? We've got a guy who I really believe I'm really, feeling his flow, Mr. Joe Kalitz. He is our director of operations, right? Why? And personally, I don't think it's because I don't think I'm a bad manager. I mean, people like me and everything, but I'm just not as organized as I need to be in order to run in order to do what he does, right? He's like super organized. He's like a combat soldier. He just got everything. He put me in line, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I appreciate it. And then at the same time, again, if you're good at managing, then find someone else who's great at sales. The bottom line, just mix it all together. Y'all know what I'm saying.
Too, just kind of to piggyback on what you're saying about having somebody that looks at the whole picture. Like I found that as the marketing director at a group or at a particular store, because marketing was involved in multiple departments, right? Like we were working on sales, obviously. And I worked with the BDC on handling the leads that were coming in. I worked with the fixed ops team on marketing for service. So I was one of the few people who had a view of like what's going on here and here and here. Because the sales manager is not plugged into what's happening in fixed ops, probably doesn't know anything about fixed ops.
Yeah.
And the fixed ops director is probably just worried. I mean, listen, that's a profit center for a dealership. It's busy. The fixed ops manager probably has more employees than anybody in the building.
Right.
So he's focused on his thing, but not worried about sales. But don't those two things work together?
They ought
Sales
to.
customers build service customers. Service customers become sales customers. Like, shouldn't those two be best friends to maximize
100%.
revenue?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Don't be the last one with your hand up at the auction. VinQ Vehicle Buying Center gives dealers the digital and in-store tools you need to buy direct from the public. On average, inventory bought from the public grosses $1,200 higher on the front end alone. VinQ turns buying cars direct from the public into a business. The most profitable dealerships in the country are making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in additional front end gross. Private party acquisition starts with VinQ. See it at VinQ.com.
Yeah, it's like a figure eight loop, right? You can put them on your loop. Yeah, they roll over to the sales loop, and then they buy a car and they roll over to the service loop, and then that's 85% of customers who purchase or who have their vehicle serviced with the customer with their dealership. They're going to come back and buy, right? A service customer is 7 times as likely to buy from the place where they get their vehicle serviced. So you absolutely.
I like that stat. I like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's crazy. So it's some cool stuff. So again, I know we're talking marketing, right? And so what would you say is the biggest piece of marketing? Let's say I'm like, okay, I'm a magician. I know how to do stuff, but I'm not a great marketer. What should I study first? Is it like copy, which most folks don't know what that means? The words that that I'm saying? Is it the video? Is it the look? I mean, what do I need to be focused on? What's the number one thing that's going to get me the biggest impact?
That's a big question. I mean, I look at 3 things, right? I think you got to worry about because you could have the greatest tactic in the world. Here's the best place to put my commercial or put my message, or not even commercial, message, text, pictures, whatever, video, whatever it is. And if what you're serving, the ad you're serving that person sucks, then you're wasting your money. And if you have the greatest creative, the best campaign, whether it's TV, video, copy, whatever it is, visual, and you don't put it in the right places, then that's worthless too, right? So, they got to work together and be in the right places. The creative is the fun part to do, right? Like creating your message, coming up with the campaign. What are you going to market? How are you going to market? That's fun. But then where are you going to put it? Like the data and the science behind it is kind of where the nerd side comes in. But that part is, equally as, if not more important, because if you're not getting your messaging in front of the right person, then you're wasting all that creative juice. So I don't know. I guess the answer to your question is you got to have good creative, but you gotta like, I would, if I was a dealer or I was starting out or I had an agency or something, I would want to understand the programmatic buying right now, like marketing automation or, micro marketing, where you're not wasting any of your spend, right? You're allocating your budget to the exact type of person that you're looking for and getting that message in front of them, instead of the old days where you would just say, okay, well, we want to sell, 80 cars this weekend. So we're going to spend $10,000 on radio, on a couple of radio stations from Monday to Friday. And then we're going to be super busy Saturday and Sunday. Well, those days are behind us. And it's not efficient, because most of the people listening to the radio aren't in the market for a car. But if you can reach the people that are in the market for a car in other ways, well, now you're being more efficient with your spend. You can spend less and you can be more effective. And now you have a chance to put your awesome creative in front of the right people.
Yeah.
No, did that even answer your question? I don't even know if that answered.
No, it did, because really what I'm trying to figure out is, what should folks be focused on? Here's something interesting that I just heard Grant Cardone say. He said it on our most recent show, right? He was just on Against All Odds again. And he talked about it. He's like, man, but it's crazy because sometimes we feel like we have to market to the people who are already in the market, but that's really selling, right? He said, man, we market to people all the time. I mean, big companies market to people all the time who aren't in the market, right? Like, so what? Show off your stuff and maybe somebody will get interested, right? That's the whole thing about a commercial, right? Put up a McDonald's commercial. I'm saying McDonald's just because of a big company, right? But, and somebody who wasn't even thinking about McDonald's, but lunch is coming up, be like, you know what? I'm going to go to McDonald's, right? It wasn't even on their mind. So, I mean, there's different schools of thought, but I love what you just said, because it goes hand in hand. And basically what I heard you say is that, you have to be creative. You have to, have that aspect, but you also can't sell cigarettes at a non-smokers convention. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I will tell you, Grant is right? All right. So Grant Cardone, he's right. But on the other hand, that's not the circle that our industry has built itself. I agree completely. You need to be branding, awareness. So when someone is in the market, they recall your name and shop for you. And that's important. But OEMs drive home the 30-day sales cycle to dealers so much that a dealer almost has no choice but to devote all of their advertising budget to transactional advertising. They can't spend their money on relational awareness branding campaigns. Should we be doing that? Absolutely 100%. But has the industry made it difficult to do that? I believe for sure we have. Not only that, but we're training the customer to think that way too, by our advertising being all sales, event related. Oh, well, I'm in the market for a car. Well, I bet you Memorial Day weekend's going to be a great weekend to buy a car. You know what? So is tomorrow. But we're training people to look for discounted weekends to buy vehicles, and we're hurting ourselves.
Yes, indeed, man. I'm telling you. And so it's crazy. I like what you just said. We teach the 30-day sales cycle when that's incorrect, right? It's more like a 90-day sales cycle, right? Most people are going to buy a car 45 to 90 days. 46% of people will buy a car within 30 days. But if you're like me, you don't just want 46% of your money. You want all your money. Am I right?
Yeah. Give me all the money. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
So it's so crazy because, I'll be, working with a BDC person or a salesperson or something. They're like, man, I got to call these 40 and 50-day-old leads. Like, yo, those are the best ones. What's wrong with you? You're tripping, right?
Yeah, they're ready.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because-
at the agency that I work for, we did we do OTT connected TV as kind of our like main area of expertise, and we through our automated data fusion marketing platform have been looking at the time a person sees their first ad and then buys a car. And you just said it, man, it's a lot longer than you think it is. And
Absolutely.
that 65-day guy is ready to buy a car. And at the dealer level, oh, well, that guy put in a lead 65 days ago. He's not interested.
Right.
No, you put in a lead at the very beginning of his search. Now his lease is up, right? It's 3 months later. His lease is up, or it's 2 months later. His lease is up. Now he's ready to buy a car. And a dealer, we may, a BDC manager might label it like a bad lead or a
Right.
bad
Lost
customer or a
something
lost
crazy like that.
orphaned lead. That's not orphan, man. That guy's ripe.
Man, I'm telling you, it's crazy. And then on top, like even for my wife and I, we took 8 months to buy our car, right? We started looking in April and I got it for her birthday in December, right? And so we had it all planned out and everything like that. And it was crazy because then our next vehicle we got in like 2 days. But that's a whole nother story. Tiana like tricked us, I think. I don't know what was up with that, but no, it's all good. No, so I think it would just happen. We just got a great value for our trade, right? So we said, hey, listen, we might as well jump all over this. This is a pandemic time. We know pre-owned vehicles are going for a lot. Let's go ahead and do it. So that's really good stuff. So when it comes to, again, with this marketing stuff, right? This is crazy. Marketing and just kind of getting my name out there and things like that. What are some of the things, like I said, just talk specifically to a salesperson about, how to get started? Because most people, I mean, they hear about all of this stuff, but what is step one in the process? Because I heard you say you're like, oh, they came up with the name, and is that a good idea or is that a bad idea? Like, how should I do that?
I would think step one is start a Facebook page or an Instagram page. Pick one.
Okay.
Don't make it personal. Don't put pictures of your wife at the brewery on the weekend on there, and don't post, angry political things or talk about how you think, the New York Giants are terrible or whatever. Like, make it business, right? Make it about cars, make it about yourself and your branding, and just start consistently posting content. And I think a lot of people's hesitation is I don't know what to post. I'm not sure what to write.
Yeah, what do I say?
I'm not sure if I'm going to look good on video. I'm not sure what to say. It's like, don't worry about that. Just get started and you'll find that down the road.
Yeah.
If you see someone who's doing it and doing it really well, it's probably because they've been doing it for a long time. They didn't just start and all of a sudden we're great at it. So get started and then you'll find your voice. You'll find what you're good at. You'll find what works. So I would say start a page, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, and just start posting content. And then you can start to kind of adjust. Oh, well, if I post this kind of thing, I get more likes or I get better comments from people. Or if I post this kind of thing, less people see it. Or, I do this and I get more people who text me and say, hey, that's cool. Or, you got to just got to get, just get started, start doing it. And then stick with it, man. Just got to stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I'm kind of taking out of what you're saying. First of all, people are so worried about making a mistake that they don't get started, right? And that's a major challenge. You got to look at life. You got to look at this marketing thing. So we're talking about marketing, right? We got to look at it like, you're going down the highway, right? If you're going down the highway, and this is the blind guy talking to you, right? So I don't know nothing, but tell me if this is true, man.
You're not going down the highway. What are you talking about?
So I'm driving down the highway. Your headlights will only show you the next, let's say 200 feet, right? But you don't like freeze because it's all I can see is those first 200 feet. No, you keep driving. And as you drive, the next 200 feet, reveal themselves to you, right?
Yes.
You can drive all the way from California to New York with just 200 feet in front of you.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
At the very first Dealer eProcess keynote, Gino Ciparroni and Sam Vukas introduced new tools and strategies to drive conversion, new designs to increase customer engagement, and new technologies to dominate the competition. Visit dealereprocess.com/keynote to watch and see what's new in 2021.
Right, you don't need any more than that, and I think that's what the major challenge is. So first of all, stop being a punk. Stop acting like you're gonna be so perfect because you're not. Right, you're living on the wrong planet if you want to be perfect. Right, you got to go to a different planet for that one. Right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Be willing to make some mistakes and just go for it, man. So I love what you're saying. So how did you get good at this whole marketing thing? How did somebody just tell you, oh, Matt, you're good at marketing, or like did you study this stuff? I mean, how'd you get good at it?
I had good mentors. I didn't want to do marketing. I wanted to be
That's
on
a
the radio.
cha-ching. That's a cha-ching thing right there too. Right there. That mentor word. Anytime
Yep.
somebody say, "Man, I'm gonna put the cha-ching," you know what I'm saying? Because that is
Yeah.
the key. Go ahead, keep talking to him. I just want to.
Yeah, I mean, I never wanted to be in marketing. I wanted to be on the radio and run radio stations. That was like my whole goal from when I was a kid, right? My dad is a radio guy. He's still on the radio now at 70.
Nice.
And so that's all I ever wanted to do. But as I started getting into it, I realized just from having, some good mentors, how much of radio is marketing. You're trying to get clients to spend money on the radio station because they see the value in your audience.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to get your audience to listen to the radio station. So I was in the promotions and marketing department. I started as the promotions assistant, and our whole job was to get people to notice the radio station, find crowds of people and get in front of them and make them love us, right? So we're marketing the radio station to the general population.
Nice.
And I loved it. And I ended up doing that for, like 15 years.
Yeah.
And-
WUSL, Philadelphia, right?
Yeah,
We're
right.
the best.
I was on your typical, like the home of rock and roll, like your typical, like classic rock station. It's
Right.
still, the station is 42 years old, 1976,
Cool.
43 years old,
Mhm.
still the same station it's always been. But you know what? I had a boss there who was all about marketing. He was all about being organized and efficient, and he was all about accountability. And you know what I'd like to spend my time on right now?
What's that?
Marketing, being efficient, and holding myself and holding other people accountable. And when you work for someone like that, it can make a huge difference in the rest of your career, which is why, boys and girls, when you're applying for a job, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Better tell
How
'em.
can this person benefit your career long term?
That's what I'm talking about. Listen, listen.
Yeah, that's a tidbit.
Right,
Write that down.
That's
Write
getting
that down.
some. That's getting some heart, right? That's getting some daggone balls, right? Then I'm telling you, don't be a little doormat. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
the kind of
and you know what though?
What's
On
up?
the other side note, I learned a lot from working for people who I don't like working for. I was treated in ways where I was like, nope. One day when I'm a manager, I'm never going to do that to my people.
Yeah.
And I learned just as much that way as I did the other way.
Yep. Either you're the example or you're the warning. You got to figure out which one you want to be, right? Absolutely.
Exactly.
So tell me, are there any books specifically? I heard you say mentors, and you can name drop on them because we need some mentor name dropping. You know what I'm saying? We can find them on Clubhouse maybe if they're young. And I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But break it down. Are there any books that you read or that you recommend for someone to kind of learn more about marketing, or what would you say?
I don't really. Right now, I'm reading Howard Stern's book, so that's not helpful at all. I'm reading
Totally helpful. You can't read a book from a multi-millionaire like that and not get some.
I got a couple books sent to me that I haven't read yet from a couple of guys in our industry that I haven't read yet. I haven't read The Economy,
Okay.
Jason Dorsey.
All right. I heard of it. I haven't read it either.
And then I got another automotive book. I don't know where I put it. I've been getting a lot of books sent to me,
Mhm.
and I haven't read them. I haven't had a chance to read them yet. So I broke my microphone thing. Holy cow. Anyway, I don't have good book advice. I
Gotcha.
read everything that comes up in my feed.
There you
Like
go.
I will read. I'll read reports. I'll read things that get sent to me. I read the Vendasta report, which is like 200 pages about lead generation and social media. That's a good resource.
Mhm.
But I haven't really been reading a lot of books. I like to, on the personal side with homeschool and the way life has
Yeah.
been crazy
Yeah, we
lately
read
is
like
when,
how hoppity poppity, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, when my kids go to bed, I'm like, nope, shut it off. I'm just going to stare at the TV for 2 hours and then go to sleep. There's nothing else going on. So,
We're reading, second grade division.
yeah. Oh
and
my
stuff like
gosh. Yep.
that. It's so crazy,
Crazy.
man. Weldon Long said, man, our teachers, man, listen, they've been lying to us. Our kids' teachers, they've been lying to us because my kids are not a pleasure to teach. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, he's not a pleasure in school. I'm finding. Exactly.
Exactly. All right.
Teachers
Awesome.
are all lying about it.
Oh man, it's wild. So I heard you mention earlier because you were going to go in this direction, but talk about how important training is in anything that you do. Talk about the value of training.
Have you ever been on at a car dealership and like I'd be at a sales meeting on Monday morning, and the sales manager would be like, "Oh, by the way, as soon as this meeting's over, we have the trainer coming in, and they're going to go over the 5 P's of customer service for our manufacturer or whatever." And you'd be like, "Oh my god!" So this guy would walk in and he's wearing a golf shirt, and he hands out his free pens, and he's got kind of a wacky personality, and he thinks he's a stand-up comic, but he's not, and he does this thing, and like 10 minutes in, for those of you that are watching, the salespeople are like, on their phones, not paying attention, texting each other. This guy's a tool, like, not doing their, ignoring it, and not seeing value in it. And there's a lot of trainers out there who will right off the bat bring value to, like, this is why I'm here. I'm not here because, your boss hired me to teach you how to sell. I'm here because the things that I'm going to go over today are going to help you tomorrow, and they're going to help you 2 years from now, and 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. I'm going to help you make money and, take care of your family, which is why we're all here. Right. So, that's from the sales standpoint. And then from the marketing standpoint, like, things are changing faster than ever. Like, as soon as you find something online that's a rule or an algorithm or something about how Google or Facebook does something, as soon as you find it, it's already changed. So they've already changed it, and there's already another article about it somewhere else because it changes so fast. So I think kind of going back to like the reading thing is like, you got to stay up to date on what's going on because it changes so quickly. What was the question? I'm all over the place now. I don't remember what you asked me.
No, we're just talking about the value of training.
Are we recording? Is this happening?
You rocking and rolling, baby. So no, you were just talking about the value of training and how people like look, because I love what you just said, because I am that trainer. I'm the one who's going to go in there, and I'm hoping that folks not texting and everything, like I can see them, right? So but no, I try to bring value. Like, listen, come on, dude. I'm the blind guy, right? Who better to train you on the phones than someone who audio is my world, right? Because when listen, I can't see what you look like, you can't see what I look like when we're on the phone. So you in my world, baby. You know what I'm saying? So you
would have my attention with that, though. That would have my attention. I'm a blind guy. I'm great on the phones because I can't see customers. Like I'd be like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like that. That's a way to get someone's attention right off the bat.
100%. Yeah. So, I mean, there's just the value of training, because some people think that you could just like go about life and it's just be, blase, blase, blah, or like, life doesn't have these tactics, these different things that you can use to get better results faster. Right. But there really are different things that you can use. And I just wanted to kind of have you, jump into that real quick for us.
You can't have ego either. You have to be able to think that you don't know everything, right? You got to learn. And like I have like this notebook here for those watching. Like I'll fill this thing up in 2 months with, any conversation. Someone says something, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. And then you Google it later on and you learn all about that and do what you can. But I think that you need to, make sure you're ingesting information, read, talk to people, have conversations. I love talking to people about OTT and connected TV. Right. Am I an expert in it? No. I know a lot about it. It's what my agency does. It's a big part of my job, but there's people out there who know a lot more than I do about it. And I love talking to those people because I'll learn stuff from them. Yeah. And going into a conversation like that and being like, oh, no. I know it. We do it the best. I know everything about it is not the way to go about doing it, because you need to learn, educate yourself. We're all here to grow. And for the automotive industry, there's so many great people and so many great resources. I've learned more stuff on LinkedIn in the last 8 months, probably since the pandemic started, or it's been 12 months now, than I did in the 2 years before that. Because there's so many people who are willing to help people, and these podcasts and LinkedIn posts and articles you can read and these websites popping up that are great resources. Like, that's how I train, right? Because I can't I'm not going out to a training thing. There's nowhere for me to go. Right. I work in an agency. I work from home. That's how I train. I keep up with what's happening and reading and talking and. Yeah.
I'm with you. Yeah, I think it's cool because the pandemic, one of the things, I know there's been a lot of negative, but the positive is that it leveled the playing field, right? Because now, even me, right, I do financial services outside of this. And so, instead of me having to have my wife drive me over somebody's house and meet with them and everything like, I just kick back and press a button and I'm meeting with somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's super cool. You get access to people who you normally wouldn't have access to. All the wealthy people that would like, oh, I'm traveling, I'm this, I'm that, I got to go from this place and that place, you're sitting still, right? And so now you have more time to pour into little guys like me. I don't know, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, exactly.
I find the same exact thing now. So I love it. So just talk to us a little bit about, because here I hear you were, in radio, you got into marketing at the dealership. And so now you're doing your own thing. What made you, and I'm going to ask the question this way, what made you start a podcast about automotive? Because you could have done a podcast about a lot of stuff. What is it that you love or what's attractive to you about the automotive industry? How come automotive?
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hey, Tim Cox from Car Now, and we would love the privilege and honor to be able to partner with you, our dealer partner, and show you why we continue to be the most awarded communication and digital retailing platform in automotive. What's the buzz about? We'd love to show you why. Please click the link below and let's partner together.
So I like automotive because I like the people aspect of it, right? Automotive dealerships are huge employers of people across the country. I mean, we had 90 people at the biggest store in the last group that I worked for, wow. Which is a lot of people. Yeah. And I like the people aspect of it. Radio stations are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. They used to have 30 people that worked there. Now there's 6 people who work there. So I like the people aspect. And the reason that I wanted to do the podcast about automotive was I was out of radio. And I'd be sitting in my office, and the human resources lady would come, and she'd put the trade magazines on my desk. So I'd get like Dealer Marketing Magazine, Automotive Remarketing, like whatever the trade magazines in our industry were 7 years ago. She would put them on my desk, right? And I would open them up, and I would read some of the articles. And I would read the article, and the first thing I always thought was, oh, I want to interview this person,
right?
Because my background was
doing
radio,
yeah.
And I would go to NASCAR races, and I had a sports talk show, and we would interview the drivers, and I would interview the sponsors, and interview the Montgomery Gentry, the people singing the national anthem. And so my first thought was, I want to call these people and talk to them. And then I thought, wait a minute, what if I just called them and interviewed them like on the radio? Yeah. And then I was like, bing. There's my podcast idea. But I couldn't do it because I was at a group. I was busy. I was driving an hour to work, visiting stores, coming home, and 2 kids, And then when I started working at Silverback Advertising, the agency, I was like, well, I'm going to work from home. And if I carve out time of my day to do this, it will benefit my job, like my business going forward. So I'm going to make an effort to do it. But it was difficult because I was traveling a lot to visit clients. Right. Well, COVID happens. All of a sudden, I haven't been I used to go to New Orleans twice a month to visit clients, and my company has an office there. Well, I haven't been on the road since March of 2020.
Right.
So when COVID started, I was like, well, now I got a lot more free time. Yeah. And then I just didn't. So it started, and I haven't let up since. I've just been banging out episodes, putting out content,
sticking with
interviewing people.
Sticking with it, I'm saying, like you said earlier.
Having a blast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been fun. So that's why. Why I was the industry I was in. I figured out, I thought of a way to marry the two things. I'm like, well, I'll be good at it. Yeah. I treat it like it's a radio show. I treat it like it's live. I don't record and edit, and I do it, and then I clip the beginning and the end, so there's no dead air, and then I process it, and then I put it out.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way.
Like it's a radio show.
I'm kind of the same way. It's crazy because maybe if somebody makes like a huge error or something like that, or if with internet issues, I might go ahead and do that. But for the most part, listen, I got other shit to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the time-consuming part of it too. I don't got time for that.
Exactly.
Right? I don't got time to edit it out and take the breaths out of there. And no. It's out because I've had guests ask before, like, "Oh, can you?" And I'm like, if they ask, then okay, I'll go. Right, I want them to feel comfortable with what happened and And especially if my plan is to talk to them later on about business. I'm like, all right, let me make them happy, right?
Exactly.
But generally, I do not do any. It's a radio show. Right. Once you say it, you can't take it back, man. Right? It's out there.
That's what I say. That's exactly
in real life. Once it comes out of your mouth in real life, it's out.
I'm glad this is being recorded, right? That's what we talk about. 100%. All right. So listen, because here's the thing. I come from, production engineer, and I make beats, so I've got my piano and all that good stuff, right? So now that donut's going to last all long and everything because something got stuck, but whatever, it'll stay in there, right? But listen, so I come from doing production. I got into automotive, because Sean's like, man, LA, if you can get pop artists to get songs to sound good, I know you can get internet coordinators and salespeople to get phone calls to sound good, right? Because it's basically the same thing. You're just singing a hook to the customer, right? So I got into that, and and I do my, I speaking and all of that good stuff, and obviously tone and inflection is important to me. But let me just ask you, from a radio executive, right? From what we kind of just connected on this, and we said we do this, but what could I do better? How can I get better as an interviewer, as a personality, whatever? What would you say if you were coaching me? You'd be like, LA, look, let me show you what you got to do, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're a good interviewer. This has been like a authentic, kind of natural conversation. I think that a problem that a lot of people have is they don't let their guests, they interrupt their guests a lot, which I really, really have to try hard not to do, because anytime anybody else talks, I'm thinking like you have to listen. Yeah. You can't be thinking about the next thing you're going to say, which is very difficult to do. But it seems like you're good at that. I don't know. Critique. I don't really have a critique. I mean, you sound good. You got the mic. Yeah. We've been going for about 47 minutes, and the content has been no like lulls in the conversation. Right. Your intro was good. I like it. You had a little beat going. I didn't know you were a music producer, so that's why you had the beat going. And you were kind of feeling the groove. I like that. I don't know. I mean, you got a good delivery, good voice.
I appreciate it. No, see, like I said, that's always what I'm looking for. I'm always looking for ways to get better, and that's what I coach all of my people to do. Like, always be focusing on what you can do to get better. Everybody wants to be praised all the time, like, oh, LA, you're so great, and I appreciate all of that. I really do. But I'm always looking for ways to improve, and genuine ways. Like, so, they say, lions don't take the opinion of sheep. So I'm not looking for everybody's opinion. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I'm looking for folks who can give me a qualified opinion. See, that's the difference, right?
I'll tell you this. There's a couple of good podcasts, and I'm not going to name check anybody, but there's a couple of good podcasts in our industry, a couple of good guys in our industry who have podcasts. And some of the problems that I see are like the technology. Like, I can't listen if the audio is terrible. It's just me. Like, so I come from radio, and I'm like, kind of like it has to sound good, or I can't deal with it. So there's some people where the advice is obvious. Like, listen, these equipment's not that bad. I think my whole setup was $1,000 maybe. Right. Microphone is like $200, $250. Like, it's not crazy expensive. So my advice for a lot of people is sound related. Yeah. But for you, you got the sound set up, but I think you're right. That's important though. You got to be able to take advice, or critique, or like, what can I do to get better? Like, I know the things that I try and work on is to like listen. I hate when someone says something and then I'm like, oh crap, what did they just say? Right. And then I I really have to pay attention. And so what I do to do that is I try and take notes. Yeah. I'll be like at the one, what are we at? 49 minutes? All right, 49 minutes, I'll be like, improvement. Like, so then I know that you asked me and I'll remember. So I'm not like, so what do you think you can do to get better? You're like, dude, I just asked you that. Like, so you got to listen. That's usually my advice to people is you got to listen, the audio quality, and then like, don't interrupt, which are all two of those three things are things that I always struggle with.
Yeah. And here's the thing. It's crazy because everything that you just said is applicable in sales, right? Because, as I'm selling, right, I'm listening to the person. Now, I think it's kind of a mixture because I like what you said about, not necessarily thinking of what the next thing is you got to say, but you kind of do. You got to say, okay, I know for me as an interviewer, I have to say, okay, is it getting dull? Is this like topic, still exciting? Am I still feeling the energy from this? Do we need to take it in a different direction? But at the same time, I have to still participate in the conversation. So, I totally understand where you come from, man. You have to be able to, you got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. That's that's basically what I'm saying. And so many salespeople don't do it, right? They're thinking of what they want to say. And so you're not listening to the customer, or you're listening to the customer. And then when they're finished speaking, you're like, okay, what do I say next? No, you have a process. It's something that really will help you. So this has been some really good stuff, man. So we're talking to the automotive industry. You heard we said the, automotive, what did I say in the beginning? I forgot. Anyway.
What's the automotive market from the Mark media capital of the world?
No, and for ours though, we're talking about, teaching them how to all out, ball out in the auto industry, right? We're talking to dealer principals. We're talking to managers. We're talking to salespeople. So what would a closing statement statement be? And I want you to kind of frame it around making money, right? Because look, this is the Millionaire Car Sales podcast. So frame it around making money. What's some of the number one things? How would you close that out?
I don't know. I mean, for me, like you were talking to dealers and talking to, GMs and executive managers and salespeople is give your customer a good experience. You bring somebody in under false pretense and they have a bad experience and they don't like what happens, and you still sell them the car and you make $4,000 gross profit on it. Well, who the F cares? Because that person's not coming back and they're going to badmouth you. And sure, you made a bunch of money on that guy, right? Yes. Maybe you lost 3 customers because they told friends they had a bad experience, or they write a bad Google review and they don't come and service their car with you. So you don't make profit on their service and you don't retain them as a customer, and they're not going to buy another car from you. So treat them right, create return business, and look down the road. It's not just 30 days. What's going to happen to your business 5 years from now?
Yeah, everybody have a career focus. See, they say the deeper you can think into the future, right, the more effective you'll end up being. And so many people, and I'll put her out there. I just had a conversation with my wife. She's like, I can't speak into the future. Why not? That's exactly what we're supposed to do as successful people. We speak into the future. So I love what you just said. That was some really good stuff. So, yeah, man, so many times, and I just finished having a conversation with a dealer, and he said, my number one guy, the number one thing he says is, I don't know, that car may not be around long. He's like doing it, and I'm like, come on, man. I understand it's gonna work sometimes, and I ain't even act like I never did it before, right? Because it's supposed to be one tactic out of a lot of different things you can do. But don't just make that your go-to, because that's the worst thing ever. Because as soon as that person found out, like, here's my whole thing: you got to make sure people know you, like you, trust you, believe you, and then they'll buy from you. Well, what happens is when you keep using that same thing, let's say, they call and their friend calls and you say the same thing to them, they're like, oh, now I don't trust the guy, and you broke the entire cycle. So, man, you on fire. So this has been some really good stuff, man. So tell the people how they can find you out. I don't know if they want to have a conversation with you, if they want to, jump on your podcast, listen to it, connect with you. Break that down for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Matt Wilson. I've got the smart glasses on and my Mostly Automotive blue logo behind me. Okay. I'm on Twitter at MarketingMattW. And, you could just search the podcast. It's on all the podcast networks. It's Mostly Automotive Marketing is the name of it. And we talk about automotive marketing mostly. That's why I named it that.
Good name.
Sometimes I go off on a tangent, but, mostly automotive marketing.
Mostly, for the most part. No, I love it. Listen, this has been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much for coming on here. I mean, listen, I always tell people that you are the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with.
Yes.
And you've just been spending time with L.A. Williams and Mr. Matt Wilson. And we're mostly talking automotive, right?
Yeah, listen. LA, this has been a blast, man. I had a really good time. This has been great. Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on.
I appreciate you being y'all. This is the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace. So there you have it, the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. This podcast comes to you every week from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If you have a question about the show or would like the chance to become a guest, feel free to contact us directly at 856-546-2440 or email us at millionairecarsalesman@gmail.com. This program is a presentation of Synergy Records, produced by Tiana Mick and L.A. Williams. Production and engineering by L.A. Williams. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is hosted every week by L.A. Williams and the Millionaire Car Salesman himself, Sean V. Bradley. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast can be found everywhere, so please don't forget to review, subscribe to, and share the show. Thanks for listening to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, and remember, where I'm from, money provides options. The Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast is sponsored in part by Dealer E-Process, VinQ, and AutoWeb. If you enjoyed this podcast, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave us a review. Let some other folks know about it. Oh, and don't forget to join the Millionaire Car Salesman group on Facebook. We'll see you there.